Welcome to the Freshman Seminar presentation, Staying Healthy. Hopefully by now you've had a chance to take the wellness quiz in this chapter in the book associated to this unit. Hopefully you scored all right, but it's a good question to ask yourself how well you scored. And often our wellness changes a bit when we go off to college. We sometimes have newfound freedom, maybe even we're still living with our parents, but things change a little bit and we start making different choices. Our schedules change, our responsibilities change, and oftentimes those changes lead to health-related changes. So it's time to take stock and think about this and think about it throughout your college career. First, we'll talk about managing stress. Now, first of all, if your stress level is high, constantly, all the time, most of the time, every day, you really should consider seeking some counseling. And our college, like most colleges, has some kind of resources. And you should seek those out. Again, you can ask your instructor about those. Ask if you're in the dorms. You can ask an RA or a dorm supervisor. Any number of people are on campus that you trust, you should be able to ask. Now, we have two main stress sources. One is life events. Those are major things that happen. Deaths, tragedies, really horrible things that happen. Of course, those bring on stress. It's common sense. But also the daily hassles. And some of that has to do with how we handle it. Others have to do with our personality and our chemicals in our head. But again, minor irritants, things like losing your keys, the amount of work you have to do and your responsibilities, those are increasing in college. And often those can be just a daily source of stress. Most of us worry about money. And again, lots of things going on that just drive us crazy. Those can lead to stress. Here you can see some stress symptoms, and these are things that sometimes can creep up on us without us realizing it. Other things happen very quickly. So pay attention to your breathing and your heart rate. Sometimes, especially if you're in a stressful situation, try to take stock of that, and just try to feel out how your body is feeling. Look especially at the psychological changes. And again, these things can kind of creep up on you and you don't realize, but wow, man, I must be under a lot of stress. These things are happening. I'm confused. I'm really not concentrating well. I can't remember things going on or things that you should be able to solve. Problems are really giving you a lot of difficulty. Again, this can lead to other psychological issues like poor decision-making, anger, anxiety, depression, fear, frustration, irritability, and of course, losing sleep. And of course, these things can really turn into chronic health. So how do we handle stress? Well, staying in good shape and paying attention to our bodies and minds is really important. And as I mentioned on the previous slide, just starting to recognize some of the symptoms and intervene and make some changes. You can also make plans like avoiding certain places. We'll get into that in a second. But also, things like if you're always stressed about being late, then make ways to leave a little earlier. Maybe develop some skills related with stressors, like learn more test-taking skills that will help you lower the amount of stress from tests. Learn how to even work with other people and deal with different personalities. We'll get into that some in this class. Control over your lifestyle. Sometimes you have to know your limits. Personally, I'm lousy at this. I agree to do all kinds of things here at the college because I love all these different things. But again, you got to learn to say no and prioritize things. And of course, you want to avoid unnecessary stressors. Avoid drama. Some people thrive on drama and they're stressed all the time. Avoid stressful situations if you can. And certain people stress us out, so avoid them if you can. Most of us know and are aware of maintaining good nutrition. You can see some different things on here that are important. Excessive caffeine, you can find out more research about how that relates to your body, and there are some specific examples and numbers in our book that you can look at. Again, choosing healthy things, being aware of what we're putting into our body is important. Drinking lots of water helps a lot of people. And again, these are all things that can help us feel better and help our minds do better in college as we need to study and do our work. Also, most of us know the importance of exercise, but that can be hard as our lifestyles change. So make sure you find things that you enjoy to do. Remember that exercising can release these hormones that help you feel good, and you can do things like park further away, ride a bike to different classes as the weather allows, even doing small activities in between study bursts can really help you maintain some exercise. Hopefully we all know the importance of sleep. And again, that can be tough to maintain with all the things you're responsible for doing. Some people really thrive on daytime naps, so I'm hesitant to say limit those. But in general, if you have a lot of responsibilities, you may want to keep those shorter naps. Research shows shorter naps help a little bit more, and research encourages shorter naps, actually. Spend some time relaxing before bed. That'll help you get to sleep earlier. That's something that I struggled with for a long time and finally just had to say, I stop work at this time of night because I'm usually working all day and I usually work until almost the time I go to sleep, just like many of you. And so that has really helped me, is saying this is my cutoff time and I'm spending a specific amount of time relaxing, and that has really helped me get to sleep a lot better than I used to. Again, choosing proper exercise time so you're not surging right before sleep, and getting things ready the day before can really help you feel better about getting to sleep and maybe even sleep a little longer in the morning. And of course, you want to set a sleep routine. Go to bed roughly around the same time every night if you can, and do things to help ease yourself into that sleep on a daily basis. The next few slides are going to deal with emotional health. This can be a bigger struggle for college students than many people realize. Of course, those of us who are and work with college students know this. We'll have another unit just about emotional intelligence, and I encourage you to spend a lot of time with that as it comes up. We don't really like to talk about depression, but it's a really important topic, and as you can see, it affects many people. It's important to remember that depression is not a moral weakness or a physical weakness. It doesn't mean you're a bad person or a weak person. It's literally chemicals in your brain. Again, I've studied this in terms of both college students and a population I work with as a foster parent. Again, lots of things are chemicals in your brain. Sometimes it's a long-term issue that you need to take care of if it hangs around for more than a couple of weeks. But sometimes depression can be temporary, situational, and you do need to be able to still deal with it. Here you can see some symptoms of depression. And again, most of us have learned these things at one time or another, but take a look at them and start being mindful of how many of these you might yourself start exhibiting, especially as you do get stressed out. And be aware of these. I mean, we're around a lot of other people at college. Some of us have roommates, others of us just see people, and be aware of what you see in these things. A lot of these have to do with feelings of hopelessness, or being bad or guilty, being useless, not being good enough, even hating ourselves and constantly questioning what we're doing. Losing energy and motivation, not being hungry, or gaining or losing weight. These are things that you can see. Sometimes people need too much sleep or they don't sleep enough. They have a hard time sleeping. If people lose interest in sex, and if they can't concentrate for very long, again, these are symptoms that we need to be aware of, both in ourselves and possibly. Another tough subject is suicide, but again, this is a really prevalent thing on college campuses and those who are traditional college age. Again, I've taken some specific training on this topic, and there are some misconceptions, and so try to do more research. Learn from really good sources about this, especially if you start seeing symptoms in other people. Often people who are considering suicide will kind of give warning statements and will kind of indicate that they might intend to. So look at this list. Again, maybe they're having a hard time dealing with grief. Maybe you notice a significant change in somebody's personality. They're more sad, they're withdrawing, they just don't care about things anymore. They might express that they are hating themselves. And again, these are very similar to what we see with depression as well. And just because somebody is depressed doesn't mean they're suicidal, but again, we want to be on the lookout about these things. And again, sometimes people will make kind of these either direct or indirect statements about ending it all or not being around anymore, things like that. And again, sometimes they're just saying that to express their feelings, but again, sometimes they may be putting out warnings. Again, there's no shame attached to feeling this way. Again, it has to do with chemicals in our brains, but we do need to get help or try to get help. Another aspect that doesn't always get linked to college, but is still way too predominant, is cyberbullying. And again, that's when people are being hostile, being hatred, being mean to other people, trying to hurt them via digital electronic media. And again, this can often lead to suicide or depression amongst other people. And remember that cyberbullying is a crime, and it's going to be dealt with severely if you're caught doing it here at Ancilla College. The next few slides deal with sexual health. Again, this is a huge topic on college campuses and lots of emotion with this one. Just keep in mind that the decisions that you make regarding your sexuality in college often do affect your entire life and future, and that can be in both positive and negative ways, but you want to put some thought into it and really be thoughtful and considerate. You should also make sure that you know the Title IX policies and procedures on campus. Title IX is federal regulations that deal with sexual propriety and assault and reporting and those sorts of things. Of course, sexuality can be a tough topic for some people to talk about. Other people, it seems like they talk about it all the time and they won't shut up about it. Again, figure out what you're comfortable with and how you identify and, work with that. We're going to talk about a few things that you want to consider just for protecting yourself and others, and just things that, again, consider because they can have large long-term effects on you. First of all is communicate. And again, I know it's weird to think that you're taking advice from some old fat professor somewhere, but think about when you're involved sexually with somebody, whether it's a very short-term or a longer-term relationship, you don't want to communicate. And that will help things be better for everybody. That'll help you also avoid misunderstandings that could lead to embarrassment or, even more importantly, legal problems or unnecessary drama. So make sure that you're sharing expectations and keep each other's comfort in mind. Do what other people only are comfortable with, and make sure that you express yourself about that. And just keep communicating with each other. Make sure that you use protection and learn about it. And there's more information on the book about condoms and other testing that we'll get into in a second. And they have some good information. It's just really the tip of the iceberg. But again, keep in mind that learning more about condoms and lubricants and those sorts of things in regards to protection and comfort can really help you as you're not only wanting to keep yourself safe, but also making sure that the experience is everything you want it to be. You also want to look at sexually transmitted infections, and some books would have full color photos. I remember taking a health class in college where there were some really fascinating and disgusting photos of these things. But again, educate yourself on what can happen. Again, this can have long-term effects on yourself and your partners for years to come. So take it very seriously. Make sure that you and your partner are tested. Again, maybe you're meeting somebody at college. You don't know what they've been up to in the past years. You may trust them and feel strongly about them now. Hormones can be very powerful, but keep in mind that, again, you want to protect yourself and your future partners. You also might want to do some research about HPV and preventatives to keep you safe from certain things, including cervical cancer. There's a Gardasil vaccine and a shot series, and oftentimes they're pushing that for younger kids, but if you aren't aware of that as a college student, you may want to learn more about that. And also, you'll want to learn more about birth control, and of course this can be a actual topic for some people, but again, it's important to start being more aware of that if you haven't already, so you can make solid. Sexual assault and violence is, again, a huge topic on college campuses today, and a lot of times people have very emotional reactions when they hear about these cases. But a couple of things to keep in mind is that choice and consent is key. And alcohol and drugs don't create consent. They also don't create excuses. And we often, sometimes as a society, blame people because they made poor decisions when on alcohol and drugs. But again, just because somebody is on alcohol and drugs and acting crazy does not give anyone permission to treat them poorly. You'll want to know the campus policies and procedures for any sexual assault and violence. Again, there's a Title IX brochure that's available on this course website, and make sure that you get those and know what to do. Know that there are health and law enforcement protocols for if you were sexually assaulted or other folks. Again, going to a hospital, even if you're not comfortable going to law enforcement, Going to hospital is very important. They can carry rape kits that later, if you decide to have a report, you've got evidence there. And also, just as importantly, they can test for diseases, because again, if there's sexual assault and you're not familiar with the person, again, you'll want to make sure that you're tested and make sure you don't have any diseases, and know what to do if you do. So know what your options are, and be also able to help sexual assault survivors. And here's some steps to help a sexual assault survivor. Again, it's important to use your best judgment here, and it's a tough situation. We often don't know what to do. But again, just use some empathy here and listen to what they have to say. Make sure that the conversation is private, but you also do encourage them to seek out professional help and do what they need to do for some different reporting and counseling options. And again, if you see a sexual assault happening, make sure that you get involved and intervene and maintain a presence there so it will stop. We're talking about staying healthy. Of course, alcohol comes to mind a lot on college campuses. And, most of your professors and most of us will take a fairly common sense and practical approach to it. If you're having issues, come talk to somebody. Again, if you're starting to abuse it and use it and it's affecting your college performance, get some help. Go talk to somebody. There are some approaches to help you if you are involved in drinking alcohol, legally, of course. Things to keep in mind. One is to kind of slow down. The book gives details on why this can actually be a really good thing at a party, to enjoy yourself. And also it keeps you from high blood alcohol content, from poisoning yourself and getting really sick. Again, eating while you are drinking can help slow down the processing of the alcohol. Also, drink a lot of water. This will help if you end up drinking a little bit too much and need to have problems the next morning. Drinking water can help with that, and also, again, help you be healthy over the long term. And again, designating a driver is super important. You don't need to take what should be a good time and turn it into a tragedy and hurt others. With tobacco and marijuana, I really encourage you to do research and know how things affect your body, and think about the various effects. Financial costs, short and long-term effects of especially the smoking element to either of those. Again, just do your research, know what you need to know. Again, college students are going to experiment with some things sometimes. I'm not condoning or advocating for anything. Just taking a straightforward approach, though, be aware that your college performance and your academic performance should really be your priority here. So if you're doing things that affect your ability to do what you're supposed to be here doing, then you need to reconsider how much and whether you should be using. When it comes to other substances, again, know how medications affect your body. Realize that drugs that are a little harder than tobacco and marijuana are going to have stronger effects and often very easily lead to addiction. And again, some of us are on prescriptions, but know how those affect your body. Know how those affect your ability to study, and talk to your doctor if you need to make adjustments to help you be a better college student. As far as some of these more illegal drugs, again, just know that these can take a quicker and more harmful effect on your body, and watch for signs of addiction and abuse in yourself and others. All right, thanks for watching this presentation for your health.